Welcome everyone. Tormented and subjugated throughout all ages and centuries, women have fought their way to success. There are many women who have done the extraordinary work to achieve in the society. In spite of the exploitation and harassment, women have worked to get what they wanted from ages. Well, somebody said that women are the real architects of society. Today, we all have gathered here to discuss on the issue of women's rights, achievements, and the empowerment of women. We have here eminent guests and distinguished audience to discuss on this issue. It's my pleasure to introduce Mrs. Renuka Devi Barkatagi. She is the President of Indian National Trade Union Congress and Chairman of Red Cross Society Assam, along with the President of Eastern Indian Women Association. Welcome, ma'am. Last but not the least, I have a very distinguished academician here. She is Dr. Archana Sharma, Professor, Head of the Department Economics and Director of Women's Studies Research Center, Guwahati University. Well, ma'am, I would like to start with Renuka Baida. Ma'am, you know that every year on 8th March, we celebrate International Women's Day. And this year, 2010, we have the theme Equal Rights, Equal Opportunities, Progress for All. So in this contest, and because we are discussing here women's rights, what do you feel? What do you have to say on this?
It is good that you have called me to say something about the International Women's Day in the context, the present context of the status of the women in India or in the world. But we are going to discuss it about India. In India, we feel that this women's right, it is a birthright, it is a human right. In a country where 110 crores of people or more than 10 crores of people are there, out of that 53 crores are women. And these 53 crores women, whatever the right is there, it is a human rights. The rights the men are getting, whatever rights they are getting, that same rights the women also should get it. Rather, they should get more rights than the menfolk, because menfolk doesn't produce or the continuity of the humanity, they cannot continue. But the women, they keep the continuity of the human beings also. That is another job which they are doing, which menfolk doesn't do it. That is why I feel that the women's right is a what you call human right for the women, and to achieve that one or to strengthen them or to empower them, we have to do a lot of things.
Yeah, and ma'am, as you said, women are the one who are doing everything for the society. She is the nurturing light. What do you have to say on this?
Yes, thank you, Rinku, for giving me this opportunity to talk to a group of empowered women on this particular month, I would rather say, because nowadays actually exactly 8th March need not necessarily be the International Women's Day, because the particular 8th March has been adopted as the International Women's Day only from 1975. Prior to that, we used to observe different dates as International Women's Day. So that way I believe the whole month of March since February last week.
You're talking in the context of India, right? 1975.
No, not in the context of India. It is United Nations adopted the 8th March as in the International Women's Year, that date was adopted. So that way exactly not the date, but the issue is obviously very important, the question of women's right. Like Baido has said that woman does everything. I don't say everything, in fact there is division of labor. They say that we have the gender concepts. I believe all of us know that gender concepts, we make a distinction between sex and gender. So gender is a biological, social, cultural, symbolic construct, and on the basis of the gender, we have the division of labor. So in the society and in the family, particularly in the family structure, the labor is divided according to one's gender. So that way a woman is, a woman's work is centered around the private domain and the men's work is in the public domain. So that way perhaps you can observe that within the private domain, the family and the work related to the care sector, we call it care sector nowadays. Previously we used to call it the reproductive sector. There are so many work. The the useless woman is perhaps the most useful woman. If you ask a woman,
considered by the world, useless woman, you want to say?
Useless means if you ask a woman what do you do throughout the day, she will say just like that, nothing like. So as if she is a useless. She doesn't have any use, quote unquote.
Productivity, okay.
Productivity, yes. So that person, that particular woman, in fact, right from morning till night, she is the one who wakes up earliest in the morning and goes to bed the last one to go to bed. So that way she does so many things at home, and you cannot say that all these things done within the home is confined only to the home, because a man, when he comes out to work in the farm, or even when he comes out to office, he has been supported by what he has within the family. So what the woman does in the family, in fact, is reflected also in the public domain. So you cannot have a watertight compartment like public and private.
In the private
so
domain,
whatever
okay.
is done in the public, in fact, the public domain has to depend on the private domain. So that way, if you really go for division of work, you will find that many work, the productive, so-called productive income earning activities, which are not considered to be women's work, or rather the type of work that women do, are not considered as productive or earning any money. But you will find that many such works are attached to the productive work. Like in a farm household, many works related, like winnowing, cleaning different spaces, as well as the sort of preserving the seeds. All these things are done by the woman.
Okay, so you are saying that the domestic work which is done by the women, ordinary women, okay, they are actually thankless job, and it all actually at the end of the reflect on the society as a whole.
Yes, actually we consider that, but conceptually these are considered as not paid, useless, unpaid, all these things, but actually it is not like that, because what she is doing is actually she is supporting the paid work. Even if she is not getting any payment, actually she should have got payments also, because what she is doing is actually contributing to the economy of the household, and that way it is contributing to the economy of the state and the country as well.
Right, her work is not been very conspicuous to the society,
yes,
and they think that it's not productive.
Yes.
Okay, and ma'am, we have so many audience here, distinguished audience. They are here to ask, and you were talking about especially homemaker, we have many homemakers here also. They would like to ask you questions. So can I have a question from the audience?
Yeah, I have one question. My name is Dipali Talukdra, working as a lecturer in Icon Academy Junior College. So I have a question to Archana ma'am. Ma'am, please, I want to ask about the women empowerment. In Bangladesh, we have seen that the micro-financing system, which is becoming very much effective. In India, in our country also now, there are lots of self-help groups and lots of NGOs which are working effectively. Then how much it is related to the women empowerment? How much it becomes fruitful or effective in our country?
Directly, the question has come to the economics. Okay, ma'am.
Thank you, Dipali, for such a relevant and very important question in the context of, say, globalization, changing economic scenario, and the near recession for the last few years. And yes, you see, empowerment is not only economic empowerment. When we use the word empowerment, it encompasses so many things. By the way, we'll also probably be willing to add that even education comes under empowerment. So empowerment is a word that encompasses so many things. And in fact, by empowerment, we mean that we get the capability, we are given the rights and privileges to do our best to exercise our potentialities. Okay. Now the relation between empowerment and microfinance. In fact, microfinance groups, the way it was done in, it is still being done, of course. The model that is being followed in Bangladesh is not exactly what is followed in our country. We have a slightly different model here. We also have microfinance groups. Nowadays, some of them are coming up taking the same methodology. Otherwise, we have self-help groups working, microfinance groups working, but models are a little different. And in fact, these microfinance groups are contributing to a great extent to the economic empowerment of women. Generally, women do not have, as we said, that women are not paid for their work. So that way, and also they are not entitled to the household property, and they are not entitled to spend or take any decision on the economic issues. So she doesn't have access to money, access to property, and that way she also doesn't have access to bank credits. Bank credits require collaterals. She doesn't have collaterals with her. So if you go to a bank for asking credit, they will obviously ask for some collaterals. And women do not have property in their hands. And even if the changing laws are giving her some rights, probably it's very unlikely that most women, particularly in the unorganized sector, the vulnerable sections, the poor sections, many of them are landless also. And so that way they may not have the capability of giving the collaterals. So they get, through microfinance, they get access to some amount of credit. So that, and that is that the microfinance groups, we call microfinance groups, because the group instead of, since individually they do not have the power, they come into groups, they have some savings, and that way they have access to some credit. And in fact, yes, that these particular microfinance groups are doing a lot to women's empowerment, but a lot. It is not the end, and there are so many other issues also within the microfinance groups which are to be addressed. And also,
actually, ma'am, it's for rural areas. It's very much effective, now because the rural women, they are very much, they are not, they are dependent. In the urban areas, women are.
I wouldn't like to use this very much like.
Yeah.
That means, because as I said, there are so many different issues related to women empowerment. It is not only economic empowerment. So there are so many other issues.
Social, cultural,
yeah, ma'am, as you said, yeah,
yes.
Economic empowerment is very important, but before the economic empowerment, the woman should be very literate.
Sure.
Okay, she
sure.
should get the literal empowerment.
Yes.
And we have many homemakers here also, so they would like to ask questions on literal empowerment. Can I have the question?
My name is Gitika Kolita Hazarika, Sarija Shankardev Shishu Kunj. My question is, आजकल ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा महिला शिक्षित है, इतना शिक्षित होने के पश्चात भी उन लोगों को नौकरी या सरकारी अनुदान कोई नहीं मिलता, इसलिए उन लोग मजबूर होकर कंपनी अथवा प्राइवेट इंस्टीट्यूशन में काम करना चाहते हैं, लेकिन जितना समय काम करते हैं वो लोग इतना तनख्वाह नहीं मिलती। आजकल ऐसे हुआ, तनख्वाह जितना समय दिए, सुबह से शाम तक काम करते हैं, लेकिन इतना तनख्वाह नहीं देते हैं उन लोगों का, शिक्षित होने के बाद भी। इसलिए हम लोग ये प्रॉब्लम के लिए क्या करना चाहिए? और हम लोग को देखते हैं कि बहुत अशिक्षित औरतों के अच्छा नौकरी मिलते हैं, सरकारी अनुदान भी मिलते हैं, ये सब क्यों होते हैं? इसका वजह क्या है?
Okay, you would like to ask a question.
Madam,
I think she is asking the question that even if they are semi-literate, okay, they actually want to do some good job, but they're compelled to work there in a factory or something like that, but they are not compensated according to the labor they are working. So, ma'am, what do you have to say?
अधिकार नहीं मिलता ना, इतना शिक्षित होने के बाद भी.
It is a question of employment, and then employment is, there is a category, different categories of employments. In some categories, the honorable lady who has asked this question, she is a highly qualified. You do not get she has not got an employment according to her qualification. That is but some other people, they are getting with less qualification, better job and better salary and all these things. It happens because it is the employment sector is divided in different things. Then somewhere she may fit, somewhere she doesn't fit. But in her sector, most probably there is a problem with the employment. They cannot have more employment to fit her in. But in others, in the factories and others, even illiterate girls, most probably they are working in the factory, they are getting more salary than what she is getting in a private school. That is the question. But the question is that whether government or the society has generated so much of employment so that everybody can be employed. It is not possible at this moment. But so far, her question is concerned that why we are not getting. That answer of that question is that her standard of work, specific standard of work, because she is a qualified lady, she is a highly educated lady, that work must be there. And sometimes what happens, she may be deprived in the government job and others. There are some lacunae in the selection, in the problem of some sort of nepotism, some sort of selecting their own people. All these things are there.
But I think, ma'am, this problem is faced by even male also. So,
no, that's
this is yeah.
Can I?
Yeah, sure.
In fact, I would, agreeing with what Baidu has said, I would like to add a few points to Gitika. In fact, just now we were talking about the sexual division of labor. Could you observe that we have the sexual division of labor at home? Say cooking and certain things are generally done by women, certain things are done by women and men. So this concept is in fact going also to the, when women are coming out to work, there also you will find even outside, this division continues, like say now you are talking about women getting less paid jobs. In fact, that is, as Baidu said, in fact it depends on the employment sector, what type of employment is being created for the last few years. So since globalization, since the days of globalization, since 91 particularly, although we have started globalization a little earlier, since 91 it could be observed that particularly in Assam, there were the overall in India also the employment growth was not that that much. In Assam, in a particular period, there was no employment growth. This employment growth has been very slow. And whatever employment growth has been there, it was more in the informal sector. Most of the works are informal and casual type. So you do not get the secure type of jobs so much. And if jobs are getting generated also, those are mostly in the ICT sector. So that way, the arts, humanities, so some traditional subjects and traditional types of education are becoming they are not market friendly as such. So that's why you find that people are educated, but they are not getting jobs. And particularly you will find that in most, whether you talk of private schools or private companies or whatever it is, you don't get proper appointment letters. You do not get the proper job security there. And the other parts, say medical benefits and all these things also, you are not likely to get the way we used to get in government jobs. So this is the trend in employment, and this is obviously a very serious trend. Yes, this goes against men, no doubt, but it is going very much against women, because when there is unemployment for men, it is not only the women suffer in different ways. She suffers because she is unemployed. She suffers also because he is unemployed. When men are unemployed, then also she suffers. When she herself is unemployed, then also she suffers.
Right, ma'am, because even at the time of civil war or civil unrest in a country, women are the one who are the biggest losers. So it's like, because you are talking with the economics, okay, so it will, I think it will take a lot of time, and because we are having a time frame, we are having a tight schedule, okay, so we have to discuss everything here regarding women empowerment. And as we are talking here, okay, we all women, especially many of them are working. So we feel that in this discussion, even now when we are discussing, we are leaving out the women who are ordinary women, who are staying in the rural places, okay. So I would like to ask to Renuka Baido, ma'am, what do you think that because in the time of civil unrest, women are the biggest losers, or even at the time of economic slowdown, they are the one who actually face everything. So what do you feel, this women, this feminist issue, the women empowerment and women rights, is this only a feminist issue, or it is very important for the overall society?
No, it is very important to the world society. It is not a feminist issue. And then we cannot say that only the women they have suffered. It is the whole population in the country they have suffered. The men suffered, women suffered, husbands suffered, wives suffered, children suffered, everybody. After globalization, we have seen these big multinationals, nationals, private sectors, they are going for outsourcing. Outsourcing is a very, what you call the very wrong things what they have done is. Outsourcing, you will not get anything out of it, because they know that at any time they can be thrown out from the office. And though no security, no provident fund, nothing of that sort they will get it. So far the women are concerned, they have got some other problem also, because when the employer they wants to give them employment, they think about the 6 months or 9 months the baby in the womb, they have to give them the leave for them, and all these things they have to think about it. That is why we have suffered, the women have suffered, not that we do not have women.
Excuse me,
we have suffered for other reasons also. Some social problems are there, for that also women have suffered. And then I think if you discuss on that point of view, or some sort of the people coming out, women coming out in the field, they are not getting, in the panchayats we are coming out, 3%, 33% women they have come into panchayats.
Yeah, this is the most heated question. Everybody is in, it's in everybody's mouth.
This question we can ask, the employment question is that employment uniformly everybody has suffered in the employment sector.
Yes, ma'am, and I would like to interrupt you because we have an audience who is waiting there for a long time. She has a question. Yes, go ahead.
I want to ask Renu Baido. Madam, there's been a lot of talk about child trafficking, women trafficking, and girl trafficking also. And the main source of this trafficking is from the northeast. And I just want to know if what are the ways that we as women can help to prevent these, and what is the government also doing to stop this trafficking?
Okay, ordinary women.
Yes, it is a very important question now that you have asked. And then it is under JJ Act, Juvenile Justice Act, Government of India they have constituted some committees. A child welfare committee who will look after the children who needs care and protection. Another is Juvenile Justice Board who will look after those people who are conflict with law. But I am the chairman of the Child Welfare Committee. I will give you the practical experience. You see, a big gang of people, not only in Assam, they have got links all over the country. They will pick up the children, allure the children, women, girls or boys, whatever it is, and they will tell them that we will give you a job. They have exploited the poverty very well. That we will give you a job if you give what you call the education and all these things. Recently you have heard that in Kerala 76 children from Northeast they had taken. Out of that 24 children came to me because they are from Assam, in North Kasar. Most of them are Jemi Nagas. And then we have to get them the identification. We call the parents, and parents came and take them. They took us from them. Decided. So far the women are concerned. Similarly, they are also allured in that way. The poor girl, they feel that when they will go out of Assam, they will get good job and all this. And sometimes, I am telling you very frankly, one place is there in Siliguri, where they will take all the girls there first. Then from there, it is just like a market. You have heard most probably cow market, goat markets, and that is a market in Siliguri.
Unfortunately, we have this kind of market here.
And then if you knowing fully well this is going on, everybody connived. In the administration connived it, police connived it. Even those who are involved, they have got linked with the big people, high ups in the society. They do not do anything. Then we got the girls from Madras, from Delhi, from Bombay, and others from brothels. They brought it. Police brought it. Everywhere we have got a Child Welfare Committee now. And this act, it has got teeth. Though it was passed in 2001, there was no teeth in the. Now they have given us a magistratal power so that we can put the person in jail also. These guys they brought again from there. From here they have taken again somehow they caught by the police and they brought over here. It is a big problem for them to rehabilitate them or send them to home. The society doesn't take. That is also another problem. Similarly, the children also, they are bringing back some of the children. They do not want to go home because the home situation in home is not very congenial for the children. Then they have left the house with somebody else. Then afterward 3 years, 4 years they came, they cannot give the address, where they are, where the parents. This trafficking business, to stop it, the awareness among the women in the rural areas practically, they do not go.
I believe, sir, in fact, the question of poverty also needs to be addressed. So shrinkage of agricultural land in the rural areas, so livelihood options are very limited. So the way Gitika was asking,
that is one
is a basic issue. Basic issue.
And they are exploiting that situation very well. These middlemen, what you call the pimps and others, they are exploiting this situation, and they are taking girls. Somehow, sometimes you see that in Bangaigaon, into Guwahati and others, they have got by some of the NGOs and others, volunteers and all. But actually, government has to take action on it. Police, every police thana we have got a designated officer of child welfare. But that designation officer, what happens, that the officers are transferred, no? Today he is here and after 3 months somewhere, 3 years or 2 years somewhere, then that post remain vacant. That is why we do not get that much of it. And then police thana, you know most probably that they do not take the FIR first. If a woman goes there, they refuse to take the FIR.
So ma'am, as you said, they don't take the FIR. So this is the awareness, because ordinary woman doesn't know. Many of the women won't know that they have to go to the police, they have to file an FIR first, okay, and there should be, suppose we have heard many cases that at night some women are taken out there in the jail or something in the police station, but there also at that time a woman should be there, a woman inspector. Or
that is the rule.
So this is the awareness which we have to spread.
In the lockup, in the police lockup in the station, there should be women police.
Right.
Without women police, they cannot. They have to, the authority, they have to send it to the home. The government homes are there, and the next day again they will be brought to the court or the police station or wherever it is. But here sometimes they violated these rules. Sometimes not practically, every time they violated the rules. And but we do not have any instrument that by which we can give them some sort of punishment or so. It is the authority. Now government has formed another committee, that is Police Accountability Committee. That Police Accountability Committee, if you go and if you report it that this police thana has done this, then they can take action on it. But we are doing it. So far the Child Welfare Committee in Guwahati, we are doing it. But the result, net result, whatever it is, that the trafficking should be stopped, the girls should not go, that we should be able to give them some employment over here. So
In
that
fact, the expectations are also increasing. Their condition and the expectations put into their minds through the market and through, say, serials, advertisements, and even some Bollywood films and all the expectations. These things travel too far. In fact, the issues like this, how to lodge an FIR, might not reach the common woman, but whatever is shown in the television or whatever is shown through the Bollywood films, or these advertisers, different sorts of companies, they reach them very quickly. So their expectations are high, but they do not have the capability of reaching those. And automatically, because of this big gap, anyone can lure them away. So, and that is probably one very important reason for trafficking. And for the Northeastern women, actually, we say that we have better autonomy. Some sort of women here had been quite self-dependent, like. So that way they are quite
compared to the other regions,
mix up with other people quite well. And in fact, market is taking taking this particular quality in a very bad way. The market is capitalizing on this very good quality of Northeastern women, because the Northeastern women do not have the economic capability. All these things, there's lots of gaps, but they are quite presentable. They can talk well. They can mix up well. So this market, unscrupulous people are taking advantage of this situation.
And ma'am, don't you think that at the end of the day, because Renuka Baido said that there is a whole society, okay, corruption is actually eating out the whole infrastructure. The women have to go through all this thing, and at every stage, she is the one who is exploited, harassed, molested. So at the end of the day, what we find is that what is lacking, the biggest problem is that literacy. If the woman is literate, if she is aware, then the whole, I think to some extent we can solve.
Rinku, you will be surprised to see even the literate girls also taken to this position.
No, with literacy, the expectations are also increasing.
And then even literate girls who are educated, some of them highly educated, they have been taken there.
Yeah, and here I would like to take one question.
Yes, I am Arati Das, I am a homemaker. So, Baido, I would like to ask you one question. Do we really need reservation? If so, in what sector?
The question has come.
Very questions whether we do need reservation or not. We have seen the result of the reservation in the ST and SC. It was only for the 10 years the reservation was there. Firstly, Panditji and others, they said that these people are very backward and let them give the reservation for 10 years.
Okay,
ma'am, at that time.
Are you referring to exactly to the 33% reservation? Or overall reservation? Women's reservation, okay.
That is why I am telling you that we have seen a part of the reservation for the ST and SC. But that reservation has continued up till now. 63 years, 65. Similarly, the women reservation, if you ask me personally, I am against it. I believe that women's reservation will weaken our strength. Because I feel that whatever you are doing or you are going to do it, you must do it on your own strength. But reservation will weaken you. In Panchayat, I have seen reservations because we have not well equipped the women to get that position. First thing that we have to equip them, we have to educate them, we have to make them prepared to take the responsibility. But most cases in Panchayat we have seen the women are not, at least 30% women are not ready to take the responsibility. As a result, what happens, either her husband or husband's brother or the husband's relation, somebody, they are managing the everything, she will just put the thumb on it. But here also the reservation, what you said in a legislative, especially in parliament and state assembly and all, because we are backward and we do not know, as Archana has said very rightly, that money, muscle and other things, unless you have the 3 M's, you cannot be in politics. We do not have that much. Those who have got, they have got somehow. A small percentage of women, they have gone to parliament, a small percentage of women has gone to assembly. But not that even 33% will not go unless we equip ourselves.
Yes, and here again the thing comes that we have to equip ourselves, and unfortunately because we have a very tight schedule, we have to wrap up the thing very fast.
When we say that we have to equip
very
ourselves,
quick
it cannot come only from within. We need the structural support, we need the societal support, we need the governmental, legislative, all this sort of support. We means, I don't mean you and I mean the woman in general. The question
and we need a change of mindset that we women aren't second-class citizens.
that we are
Definitely
equals.
we have to change the mindset. Definitely we have to work very hard. And ma'am, I have to wrap up the whole discussion because we have very less time, okay, the tight schedule we have. So thank you very much, the audience and the guest. That was a very nice discussion here, but women's rights is such a big issue which I think we have to take more time to discuss. But there is a long way to go. And women definitely will achieve, and they have achieved, and they are going to set many milestones in the years to come, but we have long way to go. And as somebody said, one woman can change many things. Many women can change everything. So here we go. Best of luck to all the women, best of wishes, and thank you very much.